Hello, beautiful ladies. Beth Basham here, coming to you with a midweek message. I have been hearing a lot of feedback from different women I've been talking to, working with in my group coaching program and individually. And it's just something, I actually polled about it last week. And I just want to talk a little bit from an impromptu space, this Facebook Live, about what it means to be consumed by thoughts around food and body. I have been hearing over and over and over when I ask the question, either in this group or in other places, so many women are thinking about food and body for 3+ hours a day. And quite often I hear responses of women who, when I ask the question, how often are you thinking about food and body? Their answer is 24/7. It's always on my mind. I think about it constantly. I can't go through a day without worry, anxiety, fear around either what I'm supposed to put in my body, what I'm supposed to eat, or what I look like when I look in the mirror. All I think are negative thoughts, and I don't know how to change it. This is who I am, and it feels heavy, right? When I hear women talk about this, it feels really heavy to me. I think mostly because I can relate to it. I've been there. I've been the woman who's been obsessed with food and body, been completely overtaken with thoughts about how I feel, about how I look, regardless of other people's perspective, right? And you probably have seen this. You've seen some of your girlfriends talk incessantly about the next diet they need to be on because they need to get into this pant size, because when they do, then they can be happy, right? When they get to that size, that body shape or size, then they'll be happy. But until then, it's incessant thinking about it, right? Not to mention, we have, and I had another conversation with one of my private one-on-one clients about just the pervasive nature of diet culture telling us so many opposing thoughts about food and nutrition, right? So we can spend hours, if not days, on the internet finding messaging about what we should eat that contradicts each other. In fact, I was just on a Facebook thread in this private Facebook group for practitioners this morning, and I just laugh because the conversation, somebody had asked for a recommendation on protein powder to add to soup. And I had made a comment, and then someone else had made a comment. And this stupid little question had turned into like this fight about protein powder. Which one has the best amino acid profile? Which one is the best for taste and whatnot? Then someone opposed the comment I made and said, well, that's not research based. And then someone else said, yes, but it is research based. It was just like this ridiculous back and forth amongst health professionals. Okay. So if you think you're feeling confused and not sure what to eat because there's all these mixed messages, or you're not sure what diet's quote unquote perfect, and it's leading to this obsessive thought around food, you're not alone. The nutrition profession in general doesn't agree on hardly anything, it feels. It's either you're keto, you're plant-based, you're vegan, you're paleo, and you have to subscribe to this diet, right? You have to subscribe to this way of eating, and it's end all be all. It's end all be all. And it's honestly driving me crazy because you were meant for more. I was meant for more. We are not meant to spend hours a day worried about the way our body looks, the foods that we should be putting in our body. And we have an opportunity now to see this for what it is and change it. So in this live, I just want to talk about, I'll try not to go more than 15 minutes today, but I do want to talk about how to begin to reprogram yourself so that you can have ultimate freedom with food and body, so you can stop thinking about food and body every single day, day in, day out, and start to feel peace with where you're at and start to see transformation with your body as a result. Okay. And transformation not only with your physical body, but with your mental body, your emotional body as well, because those are just as important, right, as what we look like in the mirror. Is also really important to take control of what's going on in our mind, right? Because it can feel out of control. It can feel like someone else has the reins on our thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. But I want to give you guys some inspiration today to let you know that it can shift. You can shift your thoughts and your beliefs. And when you start to shift your thoughts and your beliefs through mindful and intuitive eating practices as one tool, you will begin to shift and transform your health as well. And that's the beauty of this. It's so beautiful. So again, this is more or less a conversation because I've heard so many women comment to me, either in private conversations or in groups, that they are spending hours thinking about food and body. I'm not just talking about the time chopping the vegetables in the chicken or chopping the vegetables in the kitchen. You know, we all need to spend some time thinking about and planning our meals, so on and so forth. That's a human thing that we have to think about, right? I'm talking about all the hours and the minutes spent obsessing about what we're supposed to eat. Is this the right thing to eat? Is it not right? How is this going to contribute or take away from my health? And then looking in the mirror and thinking about our body when we're dressing in the morning, thinking about, oh my gosh, how am I going to look to so and so when I meet with them? Oh, can I go out tonight because I feel like a blankety blank and I don't want to be with my friends who are smaller than me, bigger than me, whatever it is, whatever context you have going on. This is taking away from our joy, from our happiness, from our livelihood. And it's time to put an end to it. And that's what I want to talk about today, is putting an end to this programming that we have been conditioned to since birth, right? We were born, as I've talked about before, we were all born as intuitive and mindful eaters. All of us were born out of the womb. Yes, there's maybe some things that happen. There's ancestral lineage, genetics, and so on and so forth. But by nature, we were born with the tools that it takes to be a mindful and intuitive eater. And somewhere along the way, oftentimes very early on in life, those hunger, satiety cues, things that are natural to us as humans, were programmed out of us because of messages from the media, messages from our parents, messages from friends, messages from our peers. I know a lot of my issues really got hot and heavy, like end of high school, early college. That's when I really started to see my body as something that was wrong, that needed to be controlled, that needed to be forced into a certain shape or size, right? And I know that for some of the people I've worked with, it's even earlier. And I know my messaging started even earlier. I remember thinking that I had a body that needed to be a certain way as early as age 6, like these things start really early. But the hope here is that we can actually shift that. We can actually change that so that the 3+ hours a day that we're consumed by food and body thoughts can literally be diminished, if not completely eradicated. And that allows time and space for us to move into the things that give us purpose, give us joy, give us comfort. In fact, I had a conversation with a client, this was a couple months ago, but it really sticks out to me. She was telling me, she's like, I think about food and body. I think her answer was like 6 to 7 hours a day. She was feeling like it took up a lot of her time. And she said the most challenging part of it for her was that she was spending all this time thinking about food and body when she was with her children. And when she was supposed to be in the moment, present with her kids, enjoying them, she was worried about how she looked. Like maybe they were at the swimming pool, she was in a bathing suit, she had a cover up, and instead of enjoying her kids in the water and playing with them and just being a mom, she was stuck on her chair, afraid to get up because she was afraid of how she looked and how she felt in her body. And this is huge. This impacts the way that you show up for yourself, but also for the people you love around you. And that's a prime example of what this can look like for a person. So perhaps this resonates for you. Perhaps there's another situation that comes to mind, but it's important to recognize that this is a real thing for so many women. In fact, I have yet to meet a woman that hasn't been at least partially influenced by diet culture and the shoulds and should nots of eating, right, to a degree. And of course, there's exceptions to every rule, but and I'm, in my work that I do, I, of course, attract women who are working on food and body issues. However, even in my day-to-day life, I've witnessed that so many women experience issues around food and body. Even if it's subtle, even if it's kind of sneaky. I did a whole Facebook Live on sneaky diet culture last week or the week before. You can always go check that out. But it's there, right, for almost everyone. And so what happens is that we believe this is part of us. We start to believe that our issues around food and body are just part of who we are, and we're not able to change. And in fact, if you actually look at some different research, changing thoughts and beliefs can actually be scary and and feel like death. So when we just, I know that sounds a little bit extreme, but bear with me. When we are feeling the way that we're feeling about food and body, and we feel wrapped up in the thoughts, the obsessive thoughts around what we should eat, how we look, etc., and so forth, when we've been conditioned to that for years, decades even, it can actually feel uncomfortable from a psychological standpoint to feel better about it, right? And it's important that when you're working on this, you stay consistent with the work and the reprogramming to change and shift the thoughts and beliefs, but also to recognize that this work can feel uncomfortable. So to go from a place of always worried about how I look, always fretting about which diet to be on, always fretting about what do I eat today, or shouldn't eat that. This is conditioning, and it can feel uncomfortable to think that, oh my gosh, I can actually have more time in my life to do other things besides worry about food. It can be uncomfortable from a psychological standpoint. In fact, in HeartMath research, HeartMath is a system devised to help. Oh, I can't go into it right now. It's amazing. I did a Facebook Live on it, but it's a looking at heart rate variability, the rhythm of our heart, and how it corresponds to emotions, and how we can actually work on heart coherence, which is getting our heart into a positive rhythm, to help support emotional health. That can actually, when we are in discomfort and we want to feel comfort, it can actually feel uncomfortable to move ourselves along the spectrum to feeling better, because our neural pathways in our brain are wired in a certain way. And I'm trying to keep this brief, and this is me. I just like to go on to tangents and share all kinds of different things. However, the main drive home point is that this reprogramming work requires consistency. It doesn't necessarily happen overnight, but it can happen quickly if we're dedicated to the process. So let's talk about this. If you are somebody who feels like you're spending 3+ hours a day, okay, thinking about food and body, whatever that means to you. It could be looking in the mirror, thinking about the food choices you're making, feeling unwilling to socialize because of how you look or how you feel in your body. This is for you. Okay. And this is where we use mindfulness to become aware of these thoughts, to start to track even. And you can use a journal, if you have a journal, just a plain old notebook, and start just to make note of how often, and you can use just a little marking or a little thinking, I don't know, some symbol that is meaningful to you, to start to track how often are these thoughts coming up, and just start to track, okay, it came up here, 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 and in combination with this event or that event or this event, we can start to get just an idea of how food and body thoughts are playing into our day-to-day life, or how much time that they are consuming, right? So we start there. We start to see trends. We notice that, before we go out for social events, those food and body thoughts increase, or maybe right before the week starts, when we're doing our meal planning, those thoughts increase, and we start to identify, right? That's our first job, is just to become witness to, without judgment, the times and the triggers for food and I'm talking more negative food and body thoughts, right? So we find a way to track that, to see that, to witness it without judgment. And that's the beauty of mindfulness work. And also the challenge is to really become a witness to yourself versus a judger of yourself, because it's very easy to slip into judgment mode, like, oh my God, look how much I'm thinking about food and body. What's wrong with me? That can happen really quickly. So then to say, no, it's okay. Let's just see what happens, right? And begin to track that. And as we do so, we become more aware, and we get to make a decision, like, how do I want to proceed? How do I want to move forward with these food and body thoughts? How do I want to show up for my family and for my friends that might be different than how I have been showing up so far, right? And that's a beautiful thing. It's an opportunity to see and then decide how you might want to show up differently, okay? So once that's done, once we've tracked it for maybe a few days, just started to observe and become that witness, then we can take on the director role. And this is, I think, a metaphor that's really helped me in different areas of my life. But it's this idea that, as the witness, as the non-judgmental witness, you might see yourself like above yourself in a way, experiencing the thoughts, the emotions, and the beliefs, right? Without judgment. What we can do is that entity, which is more or less your higher self, okay? Your higher self is going to witness as the director. So imagine this higher self, this witness to the thoughts, beliefs, or whatever, that part of you, uh, begins to act as the director. And when the thoughts, emotions, and beliefs start to come in and you start to see yourself looking at a stretch mark, or you're getting ready for dinner out with the girls and you're starting, feeling uncomfortable in your closet trying to find something to wear, or perhaps you're at the dinner table and you're deciding if you should eat this or that, and you start to see those negative self-talk beliefs, thoughts, and emotions come up, the director can come in and say, you know what, cut, right? Cut. We're going to change the programming right here, right now. Cut. We're going to stop this belief because it no longer serves me. It gets in the way of me being present with my friends, with my closet, with whatever it is in the moment that you're at. And you get to make a small decision, although small and sometimes uncomfortable. You get to say, you know what? I'm going to be grateful right now. I'm going to be grateful that I get to be here with my girlfriends having dinner. I'm going to be grateful that I have a giant closet of clothes from which to choose. And yes, I will find something to wear tonight. Maybe it's not my favorite, but that's okay. You get to start to make a different decision about how those thoughts and emotions and beliefs play out. And you do that by saying cut, right? You say cut to the scene that's being played out before you, and you make a decision that you want it to transform and change into a different direction, right? That's the root of mindfulness. Mindfulness is not about never feeling uncomfortable or only feeling in bliss. It's actually becoming a witness to and then a director of how you want your life to play out, how you want to feel, because how you show up mentally and emotionally is what your world becomes around you, right? So if we're always thinking negative things about our body, about food, et cetera, and so forth, that's what we're going to see. We're going to see more of that. And if we decide to change that, then slowly, subtly, those things can begin to shift and change. And instead of having all of the negative thoughts around what we're going to eat, we can start to bring in gratitude, thankfulness, joy, contentment, and those other more renewing feelings that really bring us into the present moment. So again, this can feel a little bit stretchy. You can feel a little stretched by this. So many women that I've worked with have said, Beth, that might work for someone else, but it's not going to work for me. Or I also hear, I don't have time for that. So that working for someone else and not for me is, again, another belief. It's another belief that we're allowing to play out in our lives and allowing to take charge of the person that we're always becoming, and we're always becoming something new. So I want to challenge that for anybody thinking and watching this who's saying, oh, that might work for someone else, but not for me. That is totally false. I've seen it over and over with women who never thought it was possible for them. They start doing the work. They start paying attention. And even if it's subtle, even if it's slow, the shift begins to happen and they can begin to see themselves in a whole new way. The other thing that I hear is that I don't have enough time, right? I don't have enough time to do this work. And I say, how do I say this? You don't have enough time. How do you not have enough time? If you're obsessively thinking about food and body for 3+ hours a day, your life is already being robbed of presence, of joy, of love, of contentment, of all these emotions that I know all of us, you, are deserving of. So we don't have time for anything else in this lifetime, right? Like if we are deciding today that we don't have the time or it can't happen for us, then that is going to be the self-fulfilling prophecy, right? But we make time for what's important to us. And I've encountered this as a nutrition counselor over the past decade and more, that people come to me and they're like, well, I don't have the time. I can't make the change. And I'm like, you get to decide that, right? You get to decide that. You get to take ownership of your life. No one else does. And if you're ready for change, if you're ready to shift and literally reprogram that conversation going on in your head, that relationship with food, that relationship with body, I want to invite you really powerfully in this moment to reach out to me and let me know if you want to have a conversation about this. I have food freedom strategy calls open. My schedule has been opened up a little bit more. I have a few more spots available for anybody who wants to take this conversation a little further, explore it deeper, better understand what it is that you can do to take the reins, right? Become the director, stay in the director role more of the time. Not to say you aren't going to have negative thoughts about food and body. To this day, I still look in the mirror from time to time. I'm like, oh, but what I have the power to do now is be the director, see that thought, challenge it, know that it's not true, and find a better thought to replace it. And through that process, over the years, I've been able to stop thinking about food. I do this work because I love you guys, but I don't spend a lot of time thinking about food. I plan my meals. We know what makes us feel good in this household. Um, and I eat when I'm hungry, and I don't, and I don't, I'm not trying to come off as, oh, I've got I'm a perfect mindful and intuitive eater, but it's been a process. It's been progress over time. And it started with that decision that I've made that I don't want this for myself anymore. I don't want to obsess about food and body anymore. I'm ready for something different. And I know the diet culture did not offer that to me. If it did, I would have had the magic key, and I'd be talking to you about that right now. What I did discover is that I am unique, and I don't subscribe to all of the messaging anymore around this food or that food being the miracle or the cure for weight loss or whatever it is. All of the answers actually come from within. And we tap into that through this work, through reprogramming, through mindfulness, through working on intuitive eating practices, which, again, this live is already long. I'm not going to get into those, but that's where we can start to regain empowerment and control over that relationship with food and body. So once again, I invite you, if you're interested or curious, I have my schedule open to a few more food freedom strategy calls this week. If you want to hop on the phone, explore what this work is all about. If you're ready for a new way, done with diets, recognize that, oh my God, I'm thinking about food and body way too much. It's interfering with my relationships, with my life, with my love, with the people in my life, with the relationship with myself, and you want something different. Now is a wonderful time to take advantage of this opportunity. Hop on a call with me. We'll chat for an hour and discover and decide if this work is right for you. And if it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal at all. Not everyone is ready for this. And on the flip side of that, maybe it is your time. Maybe it is your time to step into a new version of yourself, to reclaim your relationship with your body, your relationship with your plate, and see it in a completely new way that will liberate you and empower you to be the best version of yourself. So that's all I'm going to say. I don't have any comments that come in. I kind of jumped on this live out of the blue. So for those of you watching the recording, thank you for listening. If you have any questions about this work, this is just a little snippet of what I do inside my group coaching program, Peace with Food and Soul. But this is really important to ask those questions here. I want to get feedback from you and hear from you what it is that you want to learn more about. Or if this is confusing, like, let me clarify if I can, or describe it in a new way, because I'm happy to do that as well. So have an awesome Tuesday. And if you watch this on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, whatever day it is, enjoy your day and get present, become the director, and allow yourself to interrupt those negative thoughts when they show up so that you can begin to reprogram your relationship with food and body right now, here today. All right. Take care, everyone.